So, guys, I had some time to sleep on it. I feel really good about what I saw yesterday. It was not the best performance, but there was so much to take away from it, so much to be excited for the future. And when you really think about it, this game was garbage. You thought there was something positive? Did you really think there was something positive I was gonna take away from this abomination? It it is another example of us unnecessary collapsing on ourselves. What else could I say, guys? What else is there to say at this point? I don't even know where to get started. We could start with the score. We could start with the score. Final score 38-30. I'm seeing idiots say the last touchdown doesn't count. It obviously counted, you fucking morons. We had like 29 seconds left and a timeout. If we recover an onside kick, we still theoretically had a chance at winning that game. So I'm not even acknowledging this talking point that people are making. But when you watch this game perfectly shows everything that I've been worried about. Not just last week, but even in the past couple of seasons, but definitely last week. Last week, we beat the Cleveland Browns handily, and I saw a bunch of people getting over the top excited, and I was so confused because I was like, wait a minute. I was like, hey, okay, guys, this was a solid win, but can we really trust this team? That's literally what I titled the video. I said, okay, we dominated or destroyed the Browns, but can we really trust this team? And games like this are the exact reason why. This defense is fraudulent. They are fucking garbage. Fucking embarrassing. I can't believe what I'm witnessing. It's so bad that I'm in awe of the nonsense that I'm witnessing, guys. And I can't emphasize this enough, guys. We have about 4 players on this defense who make $100 million more or less, or were paid more or less $100 million contracts. Whether it be Matabike at $98 million, Marlon, when he got paid a few years ago, he got $98 million, Roquan $100 million, Kyle $100 million, and yet not even to mention all the draft capital we've used on the defensive line in the secondary, and yet here we are, garbage still. Embarrassing. Very little pressure all night on Jared Goff. Jared Goff, mind you, the Lions defense, the offensive line had been struggling prior to this game, and we still made them look competent. Still. And I'm seeing people say, well, the only reason we couldn't get pressure was because of Matabike. The only reason we didn't stop the run was because of Matabike. I'm not even sure about that, to be honest with you. I can almost see the argument when it comes to sacks, because Matabike's had a sack the first 2 weeks. But when it comes to stopping the run, there's no argument to be made. Even if Matabike was in the game, we weren't stopping the run. Did we stop the run in the playoffs against Buffalo? Shoot, did we stop the run week 1 against Buffalo? I mean, shoot, we was low-key struggling at times to stop the Quinshon Judkins and the Browns when they got a couple of runs off. This defense is garbage, guys. And even if Matabike is hurt, guys, we still have several other $100 million players on this defense, as well as several other highly touted first, second, and third round draft picks. And they still are non-factors, guys. They still are non-factors. Embarrassing. Do you understand we have now become a laughing stock? What else can we say at this point, guys? And another thing, to get back to this defense real quick, because I'm all over the place right now. I had time to sleep on it, and I'm still all over the place. This is not how I wanted my week to go, but it is what it is. We're going back to Roquan Smith. We're going back to that conversation. Because I saw a lot of y'all, not necessarily the people subscribed to me, but I mean Ravens fans in general. I saw a lot of y'all last week after the Browns game. You fools tried to go out here and say silly things like, oh, Roquan, he silenced the haters. How? Who did he silence? Do you know how ridiculous that sounds? Who did he silence? He silenced the haters because he played well against a garbage offense in Cleveland that's being led by a 90-year-old quarterback. He's supposed to hold his hat on that. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been 4 seasons. Roquan has been on this team for 4 seasons. 2022, 2023, 2024, and now we are in 2025, the 2025 season. So it's been 4 seasons of him being on this team, and he is a non-factor. Complete non-factor. He is a bum in pass coverage. And you have Ravens fans who will have the nerve to say, well, that's not really his forte. He's a run stopper. He's more of the run stopping kind of guy. Man, I'm supposed to let it go that he's only good at half of his job, bro? If he's only good at half of his job, don't pay him $100 million. You pay this man $100 million and then you want to make an excuse for him when he can't cover anybody, when he can't catch anybody. And then even if you feel like he's elite at stopping the run, which I'm not saying he's not good at stopping the run. At times, he could be good, of course. But guess what? A game like this, what happened? The Lions ran for 225 yards. Where was run stopping Roquan Smith at, guys? Where was our entire defensive line at, honestly? I could at least understand Travis Jones being MIA because he was double teamed really the entire game. But that makes it even more of a head scratching moment because I'm like, well, if Travis is getting double teamed, why is nobody free? Why is nobody free to create any real pressure? Like what's going on? I don't understand it. It's not making sense. No sense whatsoever. We can't get any stops. We can't get any stops. We can't force turnovers. We're not getting pressures. We're not getting sacks. And yet we have all of this money and draft capital put onto the defense. Which, again, see, and I made this video several years ago when I told y'all, you gotta let this idea go about recreating the 2000s team. It is a completely different NFL. And on top of it being a completely different NFL, you also don't even have the same players. And this right here is really the real issue I've had with us bringing in Roquan Smith. I don't have a problem, and I've said this before, I don't have a personal problem with Roquan Smith, obviously. He seems like a nice guy in general. He seems like a good teammate who at least wants to try to bring the best out of his team. But let's look. My main issue is, number one, paying him $100 million was a blatant overpay. And then number two, you have a lot of Ravens fans who, when he came here, they foolishly were trying to compare this man to Ray Lewis. When you needed Ray Lewis to make a play, Ray Lewis was making plays, guys. Roquan has been on this team for this is 4th season. It's really been like 3 years or 3.5 years, but as far as if we're counting seasons, this is 4th season. And yet, in all this time, you can't point to any meaningful game against any good team where Roquan Smith has actually made a difference. He's a complete non-factor in these moments. You're paying $100 million for a guy to give motivational speeches. You might as well call up, what's his face? What's the dude? Grant Cardone or E.T. Eric Thomas or whatever? Les Brown. You might as well call up these people if you're going to waste that much money on somebody to just give you a motivational speech. Because when you need him to make a play, he can't do it. This is extremely sad. And then I didn't even talk about the offense yet. So I don't even know what to say. Because despite the imperfections, despite the imperfections on the offense, despite the mistakes, the blatant mistakes on offense, bro, we still put up 30 points. We still put up 30 points. And they can't stop anybody. And that's still not good enough. We put up 41 points, 40 points, and 30 points in the first 3 weeks. Lamar is currently on pace to put up like 50 touchdowns. Zay Flowers, despite having a quiet game, he's still on pace to have like what, 1,200 yards? Derrick Henry has had a nightmare start to this season, and he's still on pace for like what, 1,400 yards? And despite all of this, this is still not good enough to win games? This offensive line is a joke. John Harbaugh is a joke. His unwillingness to change the lineup and their stubbornness and their foolish desire to stick with Falele and Voorhees no matter what is a joke. See, if we only had one bad offensive lineman, that's not the end of the world. But that's not the problem. We have two awful offensive linemen. See, it's one thing to just have see, John Simpson, when we had him, in my opinion, I thought he was bad, but he wasn't like awful. But right now, we have two awful the offensive linemen. We have two. And now it's getting to the point where all of our offensive linemen are playing bad. Outside of like what, maybe Linderbaum, but outside of that, I mean, Ronnie's looking bad at times. Rosengarten's not having a good start to his sophomore season. So now the entire offensive line is a liability. Now people are back to what they always go back to when they say, well, Lamar should run more. Guys, Lamar's in his 8th season. Do you really still want him running for his life at all times? That's just ignoring the bigger issue at play, which is this offensive line is garbage. EDC and John Harbaugh knew it was garbage and they didn't care. Kevin Zeitler was available this offseason. Guys, how many times did I talk about Kevin Zeitler this offseason? We had every opportunity to bring Kevin Zeitler back last season and this season, and they let him go. They let him go to another team. And here we are with no answers on the offensive line. We have no answer at guard. Our best hope is what? Ben Cleveland, a guy who maybe can be competent, but guess what? Harbaugh, for whatever reason, has a personal problem with him, so he's not getting on the field. So guess what? There's no answer on this team. This is why in the offseason, before the draft, when I was doing mock draft videos, I was talking about guys like Josh Simmons and Gray Zabel, Donovan Jackson. I was talking about these guys. Even John, what's his name, that went to the Commanders, John Connolly or whatever. I was talking about these guys in the first round because I would really like to have Gray Zabel right now. He was at pick 18. You can't tell me we can't trade up 9 spots. Donovan Jackson went at pick 24. You can't trade up 3 spots. Josh Simmons and John Connolly were on the board still. You didn't take them. You took a fucking safety. And it's no offense to Malachi Starks. I think Malachi overall should have a bright future where he should be a good player in 2 to 3 years. And it's not to say he's a bad player now, but I just think, him as a rookie, as the second safety on this team, realistically, I don't think he's gonna make much of an impact this year at all. He had a chance to make an impact week 1 against Buffalo if he catches that pick, but he didn't. This is why I don't like people that have the stubborn mentality of only sticking to the best player available method in the draft. And I'm not saying best player available is not a good idea, but context matters above everything else. We are not a team that's looking to rebuild that has 1,000,001 things that we need to shore up. We're a team that is in a Super Bowl window that has a couple of blatant holes that need to be fixed. And what did they do? They didn't fix it. They picked a safety in the first round instead of waiting until the second round. Guys, I promise you, Malachi Starks was not getting picked before the second round. He was going to be there in the second round. And even if somebody picked him up right before we were going to get him, guess what, guys? We could have still gotten a guy like Andrew Makuba. And guess what? Right now, Andrew Makuba and Malachi Starks, I mean, they performing at pretty much the same level. It's like they're both just rookie safeties. Malachi's not out here looking like a world beater yet. You know, it is what it is, man. And guess what? There's no solution at guard. There's no solution for this offensive line because most of the NFL, most of the teams have struggling offensive line. So no team that's competing is gonna trade you a competent offensive lineman. We're not even talking about elite offensive linemen, just a competent offensive lineman. Nobody's gonna trade you in the middle of the season unless you offer a crazy amount of draft picks. And EDC's not gonna do that. He's addicted to draft picks. He wants to make 50-11 draft picks every year because in his mind, if he just gets a billion draft picks every year, maybe he'll have a draft where he just picks a lot of good players. How's that worked out so far? All these draft picks on this team, and still we have the same problems we had 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago. Zach Orr is garbage. I've tried my best to be patient with Zach Orr because he's a young coach, but at this point, he's just too big of a liability. People keep comparing him to Mike McDonald, but guess what, guys? The defense now, at least on paper, you could argue there's more talent on the defense now than there was when Mike McDonald was here, and yet we look historically bad. That's a major red flag. And guess what? In the case of Mike McDonald, it really only took him about 5 or 6 games to really hit his stride. And then the rest is history. In the case of Zach Orr, we are entering the second season of Zach Orr. So we're in week 3 now. We have a 20-game sample size of Zach Orr. And this defense has only looked competent for 3 games? And it was like last year at the end of the year when we played the worst offenses in football. This is absolutely ridiculous. Zach Orr doesn't know what he's doing, and that's a major liability. And guess what? This is something you could have fixed in the offseason, but it's too late now. Now you're stuck. It's going to be very hard to find a good DC in the middle of the season. Same thing with head coach. Same thing with head coaching. John Harbaugh, again, has that silly look on his face. Again, that stupid look he has on his face whenever the team inevitably collapses. But yet, some of y'all still want to defend John Harbaugh as if he's a good coach. Listen, I'm not saying he's the worst coach ever, but he is not good enough to deserve to get the amount of grace that he has gotten over the past 8 years. He is the most overrated coach in football. You take Lamar out the picture, this team is a 5-win team at best. At best. This is a 5-win team in the regular season without Lamar Jackson. But yet everybody rushes to give Harbaugh credit for what? He does nothing to actually help this team get ready. And y'all don't want to hold him accountable when the offense falls short. You don't want to hold him accountable when the defense falls short. You don't want to hold him accountable when the special teams unit falls short. So what use is he at that point? What more can I say? Like I said a few days ago, like I said last week, us letting Mike McDonald walk was the worst decision in this franchise's history. And it was obvious, and this is what's so frustrating about Ravens fans, the Ravens front office, about human beings in general. And I've said this many times, and I'm going to keep saying it. A big problem I have with people is most people, they never want to make any real changes until it's absolutely too late. They never want to accept a new idea or a different perspective until it's absolutely too late. I've been telling y'all for years that we need to move on from John Harbaugh, and so many people have fought me on it. I got videos going back to when I first started this channel. I started this channel like 4 or 5 years ago. And even back then, I got videos where people were so pissed, arguing with me when I said we gotta get rid of Harbaugh. Y'all don't want to accept it. But guess what? Now it's becoming blatantly obvious that you need to move on from Harbaugh. Now it's becoming blatantly obvious that you may have overrated players on this defense. Now it's becoming blatantly obvious. But guess what? Once you wait until something becomes blatantly obvious, it's too late. The opportunity is already past you. We've had Super Bowl caliber teams for what? The past 3 seasons now? Every team has been squandered. Every one of those teams. Not even to mention the 2019 team. So that's 4 teams in the past 6 years that were at least on paper, Super Bowl caliber, squandered. Completely squandered. And at what point are you gonna look at Harbaugh and say, hey man, you gotta get out the way? See, but here's the problem now. See, now you're gonna have a bunch of idiots that are gonna say, well, we can't get rid of Harbaugh because if we get rid of Harbaugh, who are we gonna replace him with? But meanwhile, in 2023, when I was telling y'all, before it was too late, when I was telling y'all, hey, we need to move on from Harbaugh and we need to promote Mike Macdonald. Mike Macdonald is that guy. He's a young dude. He's in his mid to late 30s. He's really young. He has a lot of years ahead of him. He's a defensive guru. He's hungry. Like, let's hand the team to him. This is a perfect opportunity. Let's hand it to him. Move Harbaugh out the way. Ravens fans didn't want to do that. Ravens fans say silly shit like, oh, it's not Harbaugh's fault that this thing happened or this thing went wrong. So it's never Harbaugh's fault. Never, ever, ever. And now look, Mike is out in Seattle building a new culture out there. That Seattle defense isn't even that talented in my opinion. And still, Macdonald already got them as like a top 5 defense. And they're only going to get better as some of their key players get healthy. So imagine what Mike Macdonald could have did with this defense over the past 2 seasons. But y'all didn't want that. Y'all wanted to stay comfortable with something that makes you miserable. No matter how much you like Harbaugh makes you miserable. You know why? Because when he's in charge of this team on his watch has squandered 4 Super Bowl teams in 6 years. But y'all don't want to listen to me though. Y'all don't want to listen. Y'all would rather let another season go by where we squandered the prime of the best quarterback we've ever had, where we squandered the prime of an elite center in Tyler Linderbaum, an elite center who, at this point, I'm feeling like the Ravens are probably going to be dumb enough to let walk. Y'all are going to let another season go by of us having a all-pro safety in Kyle Hamilton. Y'all are going to let, there are several key players, and in the case of Lamar, Derrick Henry, and even DeAndre Hopkins, you have a couple of future Hall of Famers who you're letting in the case of Lamar his prime years, but in the case of Derrick Henry and D-Hop, the last couple of good years they have left, you're letting those years be completely squandered. Y'all would rather let those years be squandered and then come back after the fact and be like, oh man, we should have changed coaches. But in the moment, y'all didn't want to do it. I don't even know what to say, man. Now we're in no man's land because now we're 1-2. We're 1-2, and we have to go play the Chiefs in Arrowhead next week. And they are also 1-2. So they're just as desperate as us. But the only difference is they have better coaching and they have championship experience. Whereas we're a team that can never get out of our own way and has overrated coaching. And now we have to go out there and fight like our life depends on it in order to keep this season on track, which is going to be hard to do, not just because the Chiefs are a decent and a good enough team, but because this is a team that really, when you look at it, they really never play with any urgency. If you really look at in these key moments, nobody on the team on either side outside of like Lamar and Kyle Hamilton and you could throw Zay Flower in there and at certain times, and there's like a handful of people on this team who, when the game's on the line, they play like their life depends on it. Everybody else, they just go through the motions, and that's a problem with me, because to me that's a reflection of coaching. That's a reflection of coaching. Nobody's out there playing like their life depends on it. And this is another reason why we squander these big opportunities. Because we get to January, we make these same mistakes, we have these same collapses, and then everybody at the end of the game is saying, man, how did we lose? Why didn't we win the Super Bowl? And you got a bunch of idiot fans who will say silly things like, oh man, it's just week 3, which y'all gonna say when they win next week. Shut the fuck up, man. Shut the fuck up, man. Right now is the perfect time to be voicing frustration. See, but these idiots, like I said earlier, most people, they don't want to accept a new idea or make a change until it's too late. So for these one-track minded idiots, they think that complaining in week 3 is a problem. So I guess it's better for us to wait until week 15, right? Once the season's already out of reach. Once everything that's wrong cannot be fixed because you're in way too deep. No, right now is the time that you should be making noise and letting it be known that you're pissed. Because despite every complaint that I'm making in this video, we still, in theory, could turn it around. We could. It's week 3, so our bye week is week after week 7. We could. There's easily a chance that we could win, because we've done this before, right? There's easily a chance that we could win like 8 games in a row, and next thing you know, we're like 9-2, and we're leading the AFC, and we're like, oh, okay. But you have to make significant changes now before it's too late. One of those changes is Zach Orr needs to be fired. We can't handle this with kid gloves anymore. He's too big of a liability at this point. And so does Harbaugh. They're too big of a liability at this point. You need to make these aggressive moves now. Don't say silly shit like, "Oh, it's a long season. We have so much time. We're overreacting." No, because you don't want to be the idiots that say that and then let everything stay the exact same, and then next thing you know, it's week 15. Because time flies by. Before you know it, it'll be week 15. And guess what? If we don't do anything, once we get to week 15, we're gonna have the same problems, but we're also gonna be like what? We're gonna have a record of like 8-7. And then by that point of the season, the season will be out of reach. Winning the division will be out of reach. Making the playoffs may even be out of reach. And then it'll be too late, and y'all will be saying, "Oh man, we should have did this and we should have did that." Okay, do it now then. You need a guard badly. It's very hard to get a quality offensive lineman via trade, especially during the season. But guess what? If Eric DeCosta is a decent enough GM, he needs to fix his mistake, and he needs to go find a team willing to make that trade. Because Faalele is not going to get any better. And now it's to the point where Lamar and Derrick Henry can't even cover it up anymore. See, And I didn't even talk about the sacks. I didn't even talk about the pressures. Guys, we set an NFL record. We allowed 30 pressures on Lamar Jackson. I need you guys to understand the gravity of that nonsense. I need you to understand the significance of that. Lamar Jackson is one of the hardest quarterbacks to catch in NFL history. He is the hardest quarterback to catch in NFL history. He is also one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history at evading pressure and evading sacks. And yet, in this game, the Lions got 30 pressures on Lamar Jackson and 7 sacks. Now, 3 of those sacks, you can say those were on Lamar because he held the ball too long in those instances. But guess what? That doesn't excuse the other 4 sacks, and that doesn't excuse the 30 pressures. Even if Lamar runs, that doesn't miraculously get rid of the pressure that was created. Lamar got pressured 30 times. Guys, I need you to understand how garbage this offensive line is. If this offensive line can't protect a guy who is basically Houdini in the pocket, if they can't protect the fastest and most elusive quarterback in history, or one of the fastest and the most elusive quarterback in history, if they can't protect him, what would this offensive line look like if they had to block for Jared Goff? What would this offensive line look like if they had to block for Tua Tagovailoa? What would this offensive line look like if they had to block for Joe Flacco's old ass? What would they look like? This is a question I ask of you. I need you to use your imagination and think about how much of a disaster that would be. It would be a complete disaster. We set an NFL record. We just let the best dual threat quarterback of all time get pressured 30 times in a game. 30 times. No offense to the Lions, they're obviously a good team, but I don't care how good another team is. Those sort of numbers are embarrassing. And what are you gonna do? See, and this is why I always take a lot of these rankings from places like PFF with a grain of salt, because PFF had the nerve to try to rank us as the best offensive line in football. And we as Raven fans, we all know that's complete nonsense. It's complete nonsense. We obviously are not that good. And games like this prove it. It proves it. And games like this also prove why we as Ravens fans are always saying Lamar needs to win MVP. Because you have a bunch of dumbass Bills fans and casual fans of other teams who, like the Eagles, like the Chiefs, like all these other teams that we compete against, they'll have the audacity to try to say that Lamar is playing with all this help and he's playing with a super team. Ladies and gentlemen, where was the super team last night? Where was the super team? Oh, they had so many Pro Bowlers. All these Pro Bowlers were on the Ravens. That's why Lamar did so well. Where were these Pro Bowlers at? See, just like I told y'all in the summertime, the Pro Bowl doesn't matter. The Pro Bowl is a popularity contest. Guys like Daniel Falele, he's not making the Pro Bowl because he's good. He sucks. He's making the Pro Bowl because he's teammates with Lamar Jackson. And Lamar is the most popular and polarizing player in football. And so because of that, people will just, because of that, and because Lamar keeps willing this team to victories, it keeps making he keeps making the best out of a bad situation. We end up with a good record every year, and because of that, the people always vote Ravens players into the Pro Bowl. We don't deserve, these guys on our roster do not deserve to be Pro Bowlers. Last year, for example, nobody outside of Linderbaum, Derrick Henry, and Marlon Humphrey, and Lamar too, but I'm not counting Lamar, obviously. Nobody outside of Derrick Henry, Tyler Linderbaum, Zay Flowers, and Marlon Humphrey. Nobody else on this team deserved a Pro Bowl appearance, but yet we had 11 Pro Bowlers. And I'm not saying that to disrespect anybody. It's no disrespect to guys like Kyle Van Noy, but even though Kyle had 12 sacks, and that's impressive, we all know that the guys on our defensive line, it's not even that they necessarily are truly getting after the quarterback. They're getting coverage sacks. You see it the first couple weeks where we need them to really go out there and make something happen, like Micah Parsons or Myles Garrett is capable of doing, and they can't do it. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I just don't know. And there's no move that could be made. There's no move that can be made. We missed the opportunity to trade for Micah Parsons. We missed that opportunity. It is what it is. And it's not even to say that this defensive line is absolutely terrible. I just think it's more of a coaching issue, because when Mike McDonald had a similar crew but slightly less talented on paper, I mean, we still had a historically good defense. I don't know, man. I don't know, because now we're going into week 3, 1-2. We got to go pull off an upset in Arrowhead, because yes, we're gonna be underdogs, and we're gonna have to fight like our life depends on it, really, for the next like month and a half, just to really get back in a comfortable place. And even then, we're not truly gonna be comfortable, because this team has traumatized us so many times to where we're gonna be so concerned about when is the other shoe gonna fall. But it is what it is, man. Let me know, do you trust this team? I'm not gonna say I don't trust this team overall, because if Lamar is healthy, I look, even with all these problems, I still think we can mess around and win like the next like 8 games. But that doesn't mean that I change my opinion on any of these things that I've said. I still think that we have several players on this defense who are overpaid. They are good, but they're not great. Roquan is good, but he's not great. And that $100 million was an overpay. I still believe that this coaching staff needs to be fired and changed. I said at the start of the season, even if we win a Super Bowl, we still need to fire all these people and start fresh. Start from scratch. But again, if Lamar is healthy, I still think we could still make a run. But unfortunately, due to these major flaws, it's going to be harder than it has to be, which lowers the likelihood that we could do it. Doesn't make it impossible, but it just makes it a lot harder than it needs to be. And I didn't even talk about the Derrick Henry fumble, because that goes back into the offensive line, in my opinion. Derrick Henry, this year and last year, he's been hit behind the line of scrimmage non-stop. And he's constantly asked to try to make the most out of it and create yards, which he did a good job of last year. But even in week 1, he did a good job outside of that fumble. But unfortunately, since then, he hasn't been able to recreate that. Why? Because it's hard to keep doing that over and over again. Even if you're a Hall of Famer, it's hard to keep doing that over and over again behind a garbage offensive line. I heard the broadcasters yesterday during the Lions-Ravens game. They mentioned Emmitt Smith. Guys, Emmitt Smith played behind one of the best offensive lines ever. Definitely one of the best offensive line of that generation. We don't have what the Cowboys had on the O-line. We don't have that on this team right now. So even though I do think Derrick is struggling and needs to play better and needs to do a much better job of protecting the ball, it's a lot harder for him to get into that groove when nobody's blocking for him. I mean, damn, man, like Derrick, and like prior to coming to this team, Derrick went on like a 5-year stretch where he only had like 1 fumble. And now in just the past 3 games alone, he's fumbled in back-to-back weeks. That's very concerning, but I don't think Derrick is washed. I've seen some people say that Derrick is washed. I don't think he's washed. He's still getting off big runs. He's still outrunning everybody. But offensive line, again, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you're not, I mean, it does matter, obviously, but the point is, if the O-line still can't block anybody, that makes it 10 times harder. But again, I'm going to end the video for real this time. Let me know, do you trust this team?